Right, today we're going to study chapter 13 of SD 42 or SD 42.13, Mada Sutta, the discourse on intoxication, A3.39. The theme of this sutta is the three kinds of intoxication. My mother comes from the same root as Majja, Pamadhatthana, Majja, and also you have words like Pamada, Apamada, which is a positive term. Pamada means heedlessness, Apamada means heedfulness or diligence. So in fact the root word mad is very close to the English word for mad, meaning to be mindful and crazy. This sutta is very short, it's very short and simple, but very important. It teaches us some very interesting aspects of our lives which we should be aware of, so that we are better prepared to be mindful and also to work towards spiritual awakening in this life itself. Let's look at the sutta first, and then we'll give some comments that hopefully will help us in our practice, in our own times. The translation is on page 66. The discourse on intoxication, A339. Bhikshus, there are these three kinds of intoxication. What are the three? The intoxication of youth, Yopana Mada. The intoxication of health, Arogya Mada. The intoxication of life, Jivita Mada. Intoxicated with youth, bhikshus, an untutored worldling does a bad deed with the body, does a bad deed with speech, does a bad deed with thought. Okay? So this is the first part we must be aware of and kind of be mindful of the structure, and then we apply it to the other two remaining sections. This actually is the first half. We'll look at the first half and then we finish off the second half. So here this section begins with the intoxication with youth, and then it refers to the untutored worldling, asutawa putujana. The worldling is someone who's not interested in personal development, not interested in the dharma. Right? So untutored means does not spend time with the dharma, does not spend time studying the suttas, for example, and does not learn mindfulness or meditation practice, and of course does not do the precepts. So this kind of person tend to break the precepts, tend to do things which are not helpful to themselves, to their body and their minds. So here we have the three doors of karma mentioned: body, speech and mind. In other words, intoxication with being young, like young people, they tend to be frivolous or kind of have some fun. Of course, some fun which the young people indulge in are harmless, it's part of growing up, but there are some which may not be so harmless. Some can be quite serious, like taking drugs and so on. So these are called bad deeds. Here in Buddhism, especially in early Buddhism, we use the word bad rather than evil, because it can be corrected. These are some things which, habits, nature of us, which are negative, which bring us pain, and we can change the situation if we want to. It's not that we are offending a higher power or some external agency because some God or some prophet tells us to behave in such a way. here rather, when we do something bad, it hurts us, it hurts other people, it also harms the environment, right? So these are called the 3 points of purity, or 3 important aspects of life, if you like. Then the second part says, having done a bad deed with the body, having done a bad deed with speech, having done a bad deed with thoughts, or with mind in this case. When the body breaks up after death, he is reborn in deprivation, a suffering state, the downfall, hell. Right, so here you have the action and the result. So there's a kind of reference to karma also here. So in fact here, this teaching is telling us that we should be accountable for our actions, because we are responsible for our actions, and the actions that we do will have effects on us. It will come back to us. And whether we are conscious or not conscious of such actions, the results will still be there. As long as there is greed, hate, delusion, and we are not mindful, these actions will be negative and the results also be negative. So karma, in other words, is the kind of habitual actions that we do, our habits. So we have to be very careful not to fall into this kind of rut or this cycle of negative habits which are rooted in greed, hate, or delusion, when we are carried away by the idea of being young or wanting to be young or stay young. So we can get ourselves into a lot of unnecessary difficulties that way. Next section says, all intoxicated with health, bhikshus, an untutored worldling does a bad deed with the body, does a bad deed with speech, does a bad deed with thought. Having done a bad deed with the body, having done a bad deed with speech, having done a bad deed with thought, when the body breaks up after death, he is reborn in deprivation, a suffering state, the downfall, hell. So the second part is about health, because some people they think, oh, I want to stay healthy, I want to be strong, and they get carried away with this kind of idea, wanting to be forever strong, as if, right? So then they say, oh, we are healthy, let us enjoy life, things like that, and then they mess themselves up. So again here, whatever negative things we do or bad things we do, they arise from one of the 3 unwholesome roots, either greed, hate, or delusion. Now the third source of intoxication. All intoxicated with life, bhikshus, an untutored worldling does a bad deed with the body, does a bad deed with speech, does a bad deed with thought. So here, in other words, some people they like to live as long as possible, and so because of that, they maybe consult the wrong kinds of people, take the wrong kinds of herbs and supplements and medicines and so on. And so the result get themselves into even more pain. And then their body is affected, their speech is affected, their mind also is affected. And they have very negative thoughts as a result. So having done a bad deed with the body, having done a bad deed with speech, having done a bad deed with thought, when the body breaks up after death, he is reborn in deprivation, a suffering state, the downfall, hell. So there you are, you see, you have this first intoxication with youth, health, life, and then the bad actions rooted in greed, hate, or delusion, expressed through body, speech, and mind. And these negative actions, they have results, which bring, this person may be healthy, and young even, but when the person passes away in the next life, the results are painful. Then the closing sections. Intoxicated with youth, bhikshus, a man gives up the training and reverts to what is low. There's a slight revision of translation here. Intoxicated with health, bhikshus, a man gives up the training and reverts to what is low. Intoxicated with life, bhikshus, a monk gives up the training and reverts to what is low. So here, even the case of monastics, when they have wrong views, they think in terms of, they get carried away with the idea of being young, staying young, the idea of health, staying healthy, and wanting to have a long life and so on. In other words, the three roots are very strong in them: greed, hate, delusion. And maybe they feel, oh, I'm not happy as a monk, I'm not healthy as a monk, and so on. And I won't live long as a monk because I don't take enough food and so on, things like that. And as a result, they give up the training and go back to what is low. And the sutta uses the word hina, right? In other words, here they go back to a life of not just of being a layman, but to just enjoy life, or maybe think they want to enjoy life. In some countries like Thailand, you find monks do this road, but many of them continue to practice, or maybe get a job to support themselves, but then still continue to teach Dharma or educate the monks even. And even in the West now, you see that many people who are searching for the truth, who want to really know Buddhist practice, they spend time as a monk learning meditation, because that's one of the best ways of practicing meditation, by going through renunciation. And after some years, normally 7 to 10 years, then they leave the order, they give up monastic training, and then maybe go back into the PhD from their experience of Buddhism, of meditation, and then they become teachers. So they go through this rather interesting learning process, right? It's the hands-on process. So this is something which is becoming quite common, quite popular, and in a sense quite effective nowadays for those who are very serious in learning and teaching the Dharma. So giving up the religious life, giving up the monastic life is not that bad in that sense. Of course, if one gives up for the wrong reason, that is not good. In other words, giving up because the person wants to enjoy life, that is something else. And then the sutta closes with a verse, a kind of verse summary. Sometimes the closing verses have something new for us to learn. I'll read you the verse, and the Pali verse, and then the translation also. Vyadi dhamma jara dhamma ato marana dhammino yata dhamma tata sama jiguchanti utujana. Subject to disease, subject to decay, subject to death too. That's the way they are according to the nature of things. Worldlings feel disgust at this. So here, the world is such that you see the 3 Ds, disease, decay, death. But the worldling, someone who's already caught up with the world, they see this and they don't like it. Right? For example, sickness, we don't like to be sick. Right? So we try our best to be healthy, and then decay, we change, right? So we cannot be forever young, so we try to go for surgery and so on, try to look young. And then death has to come sooner or later, so we try to prolong life, but this is not something easy. So the worldling are disgusted with this. Now what's interesting, the word for disgust here is jiguchanti, or jigucha is the noun. On the other hand, a similar statement is made regarding those of us who do spiritual training. If we really meditate, for example, and we reflect on the teachings regarding meditation, a sense of disgust also arises. But the word there is different. It's called nibbida. Nibbida. In other words, we here disgust is not so much a hatred, but rather it's a mindful response. It's just like when we've been hurt by something. Let's say when you put your hand into fire, you get burnt. You're not going to do it again. So there is this disgust, this strong repulsion of not wanting to put your hand near the fire again because we know it's going to hurt us. But when you apply this to something even more serious, like doing something bad, the idea of disgust is very real. We do not want to get caught up with all this suffering again. We have enough of all these difficulties. We just want to let go of those difficulties. Sometimes in our life, we go through some really unnecessary pain and difficulties with people and situations. We just don't want all these things to repeat themselves. We have enough of it. We are disgusted with them. Right? So that's where nibbida is the right word. Ahanchetan jigucchayam evan dhamesu banisu nametan patirupassa mama evan viharino. If I were to feel disgust at this, in beings of such a nature, it would not be proper for me, for I to dwell in the same way. So this is a reflection, right? How can I feel upset when I see disease, decay, death? Because I am myself subjected to these things. So, in other words, I got to see things in reality, according to reality. Now notice here how the verses, they refer to the 3Ds directly, decay, disease, death. So it's like a counterpoint to the sutta teaching. The suttas deal with intoxication, with life, with health, or rather, with youth, with life, and with health. So, opposite of youth is decay, old age or decay, aging. The opposite of health is disease, discomfort. The opposite of life, of course, is death, loss. The next verse is, Soham evam viharanto nyatva dhammam nirupadim arogye yoba masmincha jivitasmincha ye mada. While I'm dwelling so, having known the acquisition-free state, that is nirvana, whether intoxication with health or with youth or with life too, nekkame datu kematang tasame ahu usaho. Oh, there's a line missing.
The line missing is 15, the first one is Sabbe Made. Is it? Adi Bosmi.
Oh, Sabbe Made Abi Bosmi Nik Kame Datu Kematang Tasame Ahu Usahu Nibbanang Abi Pasato. All intoxication have I overcome. Having seen security in renunciation, there is zeal for me as I directly see nirvana. So this is the Arahat speaking. He says, well, now I'm free, the Arahat is happy, in other words. And then the last verse, Nahang Bapo Etarahi Kamani Patisevitum Aniwati Bhavisami Brahmacharya Parayano. Now no more am I capable of partaking sensual pleasures. Never will I turn back, supported by the body life. So here, the Arhat, or the Buddha in this case, is kind of celebrating his state of awakening. These are words of compassion because the Buddha or the Arhat did not say anything, but such words inspire others to practice also, so that they will not suffer like other worldlings. So here, the Buddha in this verse says, no more am I capable of partaking sensual pleasures. In other words, the Arahat is no more attracted to the pleasure of the senses. They are not really as good as they seem to be, because the arahats, they are enjoying the pleasures of the mind on the higher level. They feel so peaceful, the joy of meditation, and they've seen the light of nirvana, they've attained nirvana, so they will never turn back. In other words, once you are free, in this case, you will never go back into prison, in that sense. Supported by the holy life. Here, in other words, they are living as monastics or renunciants, and they are worthy of being supported by us. That's one meaning. Or another meaning is, if you live the holy life, if you practice the Dharma, you too will go in the same direction. So that this is the Arhat kind of saying words of wisdom, so that we are inspired to follow their footsteps too. Okay. I'll just go through the introduction and we just comment so we can see what we can learn from this sutta. So here, when we look at this teaching in this sutta, it's about the three intoxication with youth, with life, and with youth, health, and life. Here, the opposite, of course, would be disease, decay, death. Now we see these three very important aspects of life. They are universal truths being dramatically presented in the life of the Buddha, especially in the commentaries, where it is said that the young Prince Siddhartha, in his journey outside the palace, one day saw a very old man, and then another day he saw a very sick man, and another day he saw a dead person. Some version of stories say that he saw these three signs or these three visions on the same day. Now what's interesting is these visions are not mentioned in the suttas. The sutta, we have only this. Okay, the sutta, and Buddha says that he reflects on this. Of course, the storytellers then make the story of the life of the Buddha more interesting because it happened in the life of the past Buddha, so they thought it is legitimate to relate it as also part of the story of the present of our historical Buddha. So this is the kind of story we often hear in Sunday schools. The Buddha was a prince, he was kept in the palace by the father so they could enjoy pleasures, and then one day become the king to rule the country, right? So there's even prediction that if he becomes a king, he'll be one of the greatest kings of the time, the Chakravarti, the world monarch. If not, then he will renounce and become a world teacher. So being kept at home, enjoying all the pleasures, apparently if we follow this story, then he'll be protected from the outside world. And when he does see an old man, a sick man, a dead man, by that time if we follow the commentary story, it would be at least 18 to say mid-20s. But we follow the sutta stories, it's probably around early 30s, late 20s to early 30s. So imagine, if you've never seen an old man, a sick man, or a dead man before, it will be a shock for him to see those kinds of people. In the Buddha's time, you see all these bodies anywhere in the streets. So the meaning of such stories is that we may have seen dead people, sick people, old people, but somehow they don't really shock us until one day someone very close to us, someone we know very well, grows old or falls seriously sick, or we ourselves fall seriously sick, and then someone dies. So we begin to feel the impact, especially a loss of someone very close to us, and then we begin to think very deeply, what's going on here? Is this going to happen to me too? Of course it's going to happen to me, and what am I going to do about it? Right? So we begin to ask the basic questions in life. That's when we are drawn to the Dharma. And such suttas help us to deal with this kind of difficult situations. So in other words here, what we should do is not to run away from these realities and truths. We can try to, but it's going to be even more painful when it comes to us. So what we need to do here is to accept this reality as it is. And the earlier we accept this reality, the better. We won't be traumatized when we experience all these things. So first is we need to understand and accept that this is the real situation in life. It's not something good, it is bad in fact, but that's the way it is. It is the first noble truth. And secondly, we should try to understand why such things exist at all. Well, it's the nature of life, that, by the fact that we are born, we change, we decay. Our bodies are made up of the four elements: earth, water, fire, wind. Solid aspects, liquid aspects, fire aspect, or warmth, and wind aspect, movement. All these things change. We have a short life, so it's obviously we're not going to last forever. Even if we do last forever, I mean, what kind of life is going to be? I mean, are we going to, see the same things again and again? And one of the terrible things in many of those fiction stories that we read, you find someone who can live a long time, hundreds of years. You find that the people you love may not live that long, and they keep dying. And so lots of issues involved, even if eternal life is possible. But the point is, we have to deal with our present life, and this life is changing, decaying, and death comes at the end of it. In not too long a time, 100 over years perhaps, but sometimes even much, much earlier. So the very fact of existence itself, it's the nature of life. We see this disease, decay, and death. But then we can envision that there may be a state where we are free from all this. And of course in Buddhism we say that state of freedom from disease, decay, and death is called dvāra. And then the last noble truth is how we can work towards this kind of state by practicing the Noble Eightfold Path by way of the three trainings, training of through moral virtue, through mental training, and through wisdom. So these are the three kinds of what they call three realities or badness of life, if you like. But in other texts, for example, in the Alabaniya Sutta and the Malika Kalakata Kosala Sutta, we have two additional conditions. So, in fact, in these suttas, 5 conditions are mentioned. That is, we are subject to decay, this is called Jara Dhamma. We are subject to disease, Vyadi Dhamma. We are subject to death, Marana Dhamma. So these are the 3 Ds which we are familiar with from this sutta. And 2 more. We are subject to destruction, Kaya Dhamma. We are subject to failure, Nasana Dhamma. Okay? So these are things that we cannot escape from. We cannot, it's unattainable, meaning we cannot attain a state where there will be no destruction. Right? That our body cells will not be destroyed in some way, where things won't come to an end, or where there will be no failure at all. Right? In a sense, if you look around, you may say one of the reasons why there are businesses is because there is a chance that some other business might fail. So this business A works very hard to be successful. So you have this play between success and failure, profit and loss. I mean, if business is all nothing but profits, then we don't have to really make much effort about it. Or if it's all loss, then nobody will do it. So you have this profit and loss, gain and loss playing around. When we get involved in business, in life, we have to be prepared for such situations, this kind of dilemma, if you like. This is not a negative thing. It doesn't mean that we should not do anything. We should prepare well for whatever we're going to do. When we are successful, we have to remind ourselves, well, even this success is impermanent. We've got to use this success wisely. We have to learn to save. We have to learn to invest properly and so on. So that when loss does arise, we can absorb the impact. We are able to get around it. So for laymen, this layman teaching, we can, these are helpful ideas to help us live life and even face failures. Of course, for those who do not want to get involved with this kind of ding-dong battle with success and loss, they renounce the world, they become monks. So monks will get involved with businesses or use money and wealth and so on. So that's the other alternative. Now we can actually simplify this last two factors with what's called, calling it the fourth intoxication if you like, as the intoxication with success, right? So we have intoxication with life, health, youth, life, health, or youth, health, life, and then number four is success, right? In fact, we see this very real in our life today, and in the city, in the urban area, people are very concerned about success. Ask any undergraduate, any student, he will tell you, yes, of course, I want to pass my exams, I want to be successful. Of course, there are a few who are so terrified with this. Having to do all this, they say, oh, I think I just want to give up, And so that's the other extreme. So either way, it has to do with the idea of success. But we must always remember that if you think in terms of success, there is also failure. So we must be prepared not merely for success, we must also be prepared for failure. Failure here includes destruction, loss, as well as not getting what we want to, right? So this is failure in general. We go to university, the lecturers, the courses teach us how to succeed, which is fine. But when we come to Buddhism, Buddhism tells us how to be prepared for failure, how to absorb the problems, if you like, so that we're not traumatized, we're not hurt too badly. So one way is, of course, to understand the impermanent nature of all the things that we get, even the best things in life. Another important thing to remember is what do we really want in life? How much do we really need in life? So we don't have to get the most or the best. We're not saying we should be mediocre, but rather we're saying we put in the best efforts that we can. But what we get is usually enough for what we need, and maybe even more than what we need. And we can be happy that way. So we have to understand the nature of happiness. It is not merely comparing with others and keeping up with the Joneses or the tongues and the limbs, but really asking what we want in life and how we can get it and how we can be happy. So these are some pointers, in other words, how to really be happy despite this struggle between success and failure in life. In other words, another way of looking at it is we can say that success and failure are our own perception of things. In a sense, we define success and failure. And if we define failure, success in too big a term, we try to compare ourselves with the most successful person in the world, the richest man in the world, and so on. I mean, this word richest, that means it can be only one person. Right? So if we try to think that way, then we really have to put in a lot of effort to get into that kind of, that special state, if you like. But the question is, do we need to reach such a state? Do we need to think in that way? Maybe we can be even better than the best person, than the richest person, because we have certain talents and qualities which even the richest or the best person in their field do not have. So in other words, if we follow the wake of others, you're missing something which is very important, what we can do, our own potential. So do not look down on ourselves, in other words. Look at our own potential, what we can do, what we are good at, and or what we are best at even. Failure also is defined by us, right? So again, if we compare with others, then we have this rather unreal definition of failure. Maybe we think we could not get something, right? But the thing is, failure simply means this way doesn't work, so we go the other way. It doesn't mean just because you come to a wall or a rock, you say, that's it, we can't travel anymore. You can go over the rock, you can go left, you can go right, or of course if you are more imaginative, you can go under the rock. So there are different ways of overcoming failure. In other words, we can see failure as something to learn from. Suffering has a lot of things to teach us. Suffering is telling us that we're not perfect yet. There are still things that we need to know. And wisdom grows when we examine deeper into what the suffering is about and how we can get around it or overcome it or end it even. There's another, we can add in another intoxication if we like. It's called intoxication with numbers. Right? Again, this is quite common today. We tend to measure things, we tend to give numbers to it, and we think the bigger the number, the better. That we think quality is the most important thing in life. What about quantity? I mean, we think quantity is the most important thing in life, but quality is the real thing. Right? Quality means, although we do not have that many things, the few things we have can give us that same satisfaction, or even a greater satisfaction than a lot of things. Let's say you have a big crowd, thousands of people coming for a Buddhist talk. But how many of them really have their lives changed, for example? Right? Most people love crowds and they get excited about it, but their lives are not changed. Maybe they just want to go for the next crowd gathering, and then you find their lives are not changed. On the other hand, a few people come and listen to a Dhamma talk, or maybe they study the Dhamma by themselves, and they understand and they feel happy, and they are the ones who change the world. You see the Buddha is alone all by himself, only one Buddha. They don't appear as many as the sand of the Ganges River, only in the Mahayana stories you have that kind of numbers. I mean, if you have so many Buddhas like that, you have a serious spiritual inflation. There's only one Buddha, just as there's only one sun in our solar system. And you just need one Buddha. In other words, this person comes into the world and tells us, okay, I've discovered this Four Noble Truths, and we just need to listen to him, and we don't have to go through all the difficulty of discovering the Four Noble Truths again. In that sense, for that reason, we're grateful to the Buddha. So here, in other words, when we talk in terms of numbers, we were talking about a power mode. Power has to do with numbers. The more people we have, the more powerful we are, the more things we have, the richer we are. The richer we are, the more respect we get from others. And if we get respect from others, we can do things, we can use other people's time, other people's strength. We can use other people. This is the Asura mentality. Now, contrary to the number mentality or the power mode, we have the love mode. That is charitable, giving, everyone is important, there is no measuring of people, there is this boundlessness. Loving kindness is boundless love. Lust is a very calculative desire which measures people and experiences. Loving kindness is giving, it's an openness, accepting everyone else as we would accept ourselves, at least in our minds. Now there's one last point we can reflect on here, where intoxication is involved, which is also again very common today, even in Singapore, that is gambling. Right? You might say that This is a kind of intoxication. Also intoxication with numbers. We think that by playing, we have a chance of putting in a little bit, we can get more, right? It's a bit like prayer, isn't it? In a sense, the wrong kind of prayer is like gambling. We go to a temple, we put a bit of donation, and then we pray to strike first prize lottery or get something, some success which we don't deserve, which we didn't work for. And that's not right, isn't it? And the Buddha says if we can pray for beauty, pray for wealth, pray for long life, pray for health, pray for success, why don't we just do it? It doesn't work that way, the Buddha says. If you want to be healthy, you have to live a life which conduces to health. If you want to be rich, you have to live a life that conduces to wealth. If you want to be healthy or happy or successful, you have to live a life accordingly. In other words, there should be moral virtue there. You should live a life of mental cultivation and wisdom. In that way, you benefit from wholesomely whatever you wish for, whatever you're looking for. And it's a safe way of working for your success in that sense. Gambling, on the other hand, is this wrong idea that you think, oh, I've lost now, it's okay, just bad luck, let me try again, and I'll look at it the next time, and the next time is so long, and very often it doesn't come. And by that time you have lost so much, even if you win a lot, it's not really worth it. Nobody really gains in a gambling situation except the person who organizes the gambling house or the casino. So this is not a very good kind of intoxication. So here, in summary, we can say then that the Buddhist teaching is, the idea is not to measure things. You can't, the most important things in our lives cannot be measured. Love and happiness cannot be measured. Our care and compassion for others cannot be measured. We should be ever ready to give our care and compassion when it's needed, in other words, to anyone who needs it as far as possible within our power. So this is where, in Buddhism, where there's measurement, it's not real practice. For example, some people may think of, well, I want to do this good deed so that I get a lot of merit, then I can be going to heaven, or be rich in the next life, be handsome in the next life, and so on and so forth. And that's a kind of measured Buddhism. Whereas that's called punya, a negative aspect of punya. There is of course a positive aspect of punya in which there's no measurement. We say, may all beings be well and happy. May I get just enough for what I need. May the little I have bring me great joy, something like that. And that kind of approach is called kusala, wholesome. So wholesome means our minds are free from greed, hate, delusion. And the way we work is without counting and measuring. If we can do this, then we see people as, everyone as valuable, as precious, as having the potential to become good people, become great teachers and friends to us. In that way, we connect the best in others, and we have this one fellowship where we live together happily in an immeasurable way. So to reflect on this sutta, the Mada Sutta. And now let us end this by a short reflection. The teaching of the Buddha reminds us that we can live quite simply in this life itself, to see all the good things that we have and to use those simple abilities and qualities that we have to build up ourselves so that we can be happy here and now. Whatever blessings we have, they will help us in this journey towards awakening. Reflecting in this way It's very positive, very good karma. By the power of such karma, may we attain happiness, peace and prosperity in this life itself. Above all, by the power of all our good deeds, may we attain spiritual, may we aspire to attain spiritual awakening, especially strength winning in this life itself. In this moment of peace, let us send out our loving kindness to all those people who have been kind to us, to our loved ones, that they may be well and happy. And also to those people who the Dhamma have not touched, that they may see the Dhamma for themselves and be good and happy people too. May all beings be well and happy. Sadhu.
Sadhu, sadhu.